Thanks for joining me for the first episode of Digging Deeper. This podcast series explores reflective practice, a topic that has the potential to be transformative in early childhood settings and one that I personally believe in a great deal. My name is Emily Riley, and I'm an early childhood resource specialist with StarNet Regions 1 and 3 and a former director and teacher in a university lab school. And while in that role as director, I spent much of my own professional growth learning about reflective practice. And throughout that learning process, I began to embed reflection into the program in hopes to start developing a culture of reflection and supporting staff in becoming reflective practitioners. So I have been able to see firsthand the benefits of reflection in early childhood programs. And for today, in this first podcast, I simply want to just introduce the topic, its benefits, and some of the values or dispositions that you might see of reflective practitioners, as well as those values at the program level. So first, I'd like to say, as a collective, as an early childhood profession, I think we all have a similar goal of improving outcomes for all the children and families that we work with. And when we think about that, I think we do all have some similar understandings on what that takes. So many of us might say being knowledgeable, developmentally appropriate practice, using an age-appropriate and engaging curriculum, utilizing observation and authentic assessment, and building relationships and working in partnership with families are all key factors in improving outcomes for children. I think we probably all agree there on that. But what about reflective practice? Where does that fall? Did that come to mind at all when thinking about what we need? What are those understandings to reach that goal? So is that a skill set or disposition you think about when you think about the ideal or successful early childhood teacher? So I want us to really think about that today. And I just share from my experience, I would say many of us in the field might not consider reflective practice, at least not initially, and that might likely be due to the limited investment at the systems level. However, I would argue reflective practice is equally important, and here's why. I just want to share a couple of points from the research in regards to this. So first, professionals who are more aware of their values and beliefs are more likely to challenge and change ineffective practice, improve practices, as well as transform ways of thinking. So a reflective practitioner is somebody that has that lifelong learner disposition and values the continuous quality improvement process. Research has also shown educators who consistently reflect on what they do, why they do it, and then use that knowledge to improve practice, those teachers achieve the best outcomes for children and families. So the reflective practitioner is someone that really understands the reasonings behind what they are doing, as well as the decisions that they're making. So they're not simply just doing things in a rote or routine manner, or simply because that's the way it's always been done. They really are being intentional. So how do we get there? How can we move more towards being reflective ourselves or supporting that at the program-wide level? First, I just want to say, some people are naturally more reflective, and that might be due simply to just their personal experiences, the way they were brought up, what was valued in their home as far as relationships and what that looked like, or just their personality or characteristic traits that they have. So regardless, everyone has the capability to learn how to be a reflective practitioner. And I myself, I was very much a detail-oriented person. I had that detail orientation mindset when I began as a professional in the field. And certainly, I'd say there's benefits to that, but I also learned when being in that role that I really needed to become more process-oriented and kind of look at the big picture. And it was really necessary to have that mindset to support myself as well as the program in moving towards being more reflective. So I just share that because I want to just let you know, it wasn't necessarily natural for me, and that it is a skill set that can be learned. So another thing to consider when moving towards being more reflective is the perspective you have on reflective practice and what it actually looks like. So some of you might be thinking, oh gosh, I just have way too much on my plate already. I can't add something else to do or another task to complete. And certainly that's a valid concern. However, I'd like to invite you to think about reflection a little bit differently. So rather than thinking about reflection as, just one more thing to fit into your day, I want you to think about it as a mindset, or even like a set of values that, informs that mindset and your thought process. So programs that use the values of reflection in all that they do are able to be successful in building a culture of reflection. So things like valuing success and how to keep succeeding rather than simply focusing on what gets done. Giving people internal accountability rather than simply working off a to-do list. Using a strengths-based approach rather than isolating deficits. And really taking time to examine and ask questions and foster that inquiry. We want people to ask questions rather than, solving a problem really quickly. When we do that, we tend to not see the various perspectives. Reflective programs also tend to be more collaborative and relationship-based rather than being competitive, as well as acknowledging what's working well and why, or maybe what's not working well and why, rather than focusing on empty praise or negative feedback. And they also measure success by interpersonal development rather than simply just the number of tasks that get completed. So when these values are in place at the program level, it really becomes part of the identity, and it's a perspective or lens that's really brought into the way work is approached. So reflective practice is not doing one more thing. Rather, it's a way of being that includes a commitment to a continuous process of critical analysis of one's practice so that you can uncover new information. You can see differing perspectives. You can think about and discuss, what is or is not working well, as well as the impact that your own values have on children's learning and development and the families that you work with. So what you'll start seeing is the mindset of reflection begins to become a natural process, and it really, reflection will kind of just permeate the entire program and all that you do. So you might notice staff meetings becoming more reflective in nature and are problem solving oriented. And that teachers are hopefully starting to use reflection in their weekly lesson planning process. They think about, what was happening in the prior week and utilize that rather than just pulling, okay, it's this time of the year, this is the lesson that I'm going to do, this is what my lesson plan looks like. They're really reflecting on how things have been going. So hopefully what you see, like I said, it's just going to become part of that mindset and just kind of this is how we do things here. We are reflective in nature. It becomes the culture of the program. So that's the goal. I hope you continue to join me as I build on this series here on digging deeper and talking more about reflective practice. Today, just wanted to introduce you to the topic and share some benefits and values and why I think it's a skill set all early childhood professionals should have. So I'm hoping I've piqued your interest at least enough that you'll join me next time. And I think next time I'd like to focus on offering some guidance and prompting questions as far as reflecting on your professional philosophy. So I think that's a important starting point because that will help us, really think about the values and beliefs that you do have. So that's where we're going to go next in the next podcast here. So again, thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you do consider joining me next time. And I would like you to know in the meantime, you are certainly welcome to contact me if you'd like to discuss the benefits of reflective practice in more detail, or maybe you just want to talk to somebody and engage in a reflective conversation with someone. I'm certainly happy to do that as well. So again, thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you'll join me in the future.